Welcome back to Analytical Strategy. Today, we're just going to be touching upon 5 things production should consider changing up in the game of Survivor. Now, Survivor has changed vastly since it has been initially aired, starting out as a social experiment and moving into a game of in-depth strategy and using advantages as well as social interactions to further yourself in the game. Production has added a lot of variations to Survivor, and this is to keep it modern and fresh. These new concepts and ideas are aimed to keep contestants on their toes whilst keeping the viewers engaged to hopefully improve the show overall. But in doing this, they have also limited changes in other aspects of the show, such as unique challenges and unique locations. There is a balance between adding new ideas to the game whilst taking away from other parts of the show. I think there is this fine line between adding concepts to improve the game overall and adding concepts merely for just the sake of trying to keep the game unique. Today, we're just going to touch upon 5 things production could consider to improve the game of Survivor from both a strategic and viewer engagement perspective. So as briefly mentioned, firstly, we're going to touch upon how the challenges and location of each season could be altered in order to maximize variance and differences between each season. In old school Survivor, where we basically got a new location every season, it really was special and it gave new themes to the show in terms of themed challenges and themed rewards. Currently, I believe since season 32, each season has been shot in Fiji on the same beach. The challenges of each season were often catered to the location that the season was being filmed in, and now currently we see a lot of recycled challenges, including a lot of endurance challenges and ones where contestants have to go to their own booth without moving to compete. Now in saying this, I do realise that there is a reason for this, and that is likely budgeting constraints. So if I had to choose between Survivor being in Fiji and running for a longer duration, compared to mixing it up and dying out in a few seasons, I would obviously choose the former. I also think staying in Fiji has resulted in a lot of these recycled challenges, obviously due to it being cheaper to use the same challenges in multiple seasons, but they also cannot be catered to the culture due to using the same location consistently. I also think a reason for recycled challenges could be due to the safety of the players, especially after Caleb in Ko Rong was basically fighting for his life after one of the most grueling challenges ever in Survivor history. So I do completely understand why the same location and challenges have been used consistently for the past few seasons, but it would be great to change it up a bit for the audience to try and make every season as unique as possible. Now, looking at it from a strategic perspective, there are a few advantages or twists that I think need to be tweaked or potentially shouldn't come back into the game, but the idol nullifier tops this list by the length of the Nile for my least favourite advantage to ever be introduced into Survivor. The beauty of the introduction of the hidden immunity idol and why it has been so successful regards it always puts the fear of doubt into your mind when you are voting someone out of the game. You always have to cater for your vote to what if they had the hidden immunity idol, which is why split votes are now so common and have been for some time. The hidden immunity idol also allows for players to make really unique moves, such as the threat of who will I play this idol on? I may play it for myself or for someone else, you won't know until you go to vote. The introduction of the idol nullifier, however, throws all of this out the window when it is being played. The idol nullifier guarantees you to vote off whoever you want to if you have the numbers. You want to play that hidden idol on your friend? Sure, it doesn't even matter. Whoever we vote for with the combination of the idol nullifier, that person is going home guaranteed. I don't think it'll be too long where that exact strategy may come up into tribal councils, where the person with the nullifier stands up and says, look, we can get out whoever we want, so don't even bother trying, bluffing contestants into not even playing their idols, and then they can potentially even hold on to the nullifier for the next vote. It's like a reverse super idol almost. It's way too powerful for my liking as an advantage. For the big move era of Survivor, this advantage almost makes it less likely for big moves to be made, as now when you get an idol, it's not even guaranteed safety. I came up with 3 idol moves that have never happened before in a previous video, which I'll link at the end of this, and the nullifier makes them all so much harder to pull off. Please, just get rid of it. So up next, we're going to be discussing when players bargain for food, but they've eaten their whole supply and they haven't rationed it correctly. We often forget a big component of Survivor is exactly that, surviving, and being able to cope with the difficult conditions that the game has to offer. However, it has been almost too easy sometimes for tribes to be able to obtain more food in the game when they have clearly eaten more than they should have. Winning rewards and immunities is a huge advantage, especially in the pre-merge phase of the game. Not only does it fuel you for future challenges, it also increases team morale and bonding. It allows you to stay in the game for a longer duration, which results in increased pay for those individuals. And ultimately, it gives them a better chance to win the $1 million and the title of the sole survivor. It's almost like the other tribes tribe gets penalized for rationing correctly. They lose out on these bonding experiences and they have a much more difficult time winning rewards and immunity challenges, and this can cut some of their experiences short, and they have decreased numbers by the time the merge hits. Losing all the rewards you have won is not that big of a deal when it has already progressed your tribe further in the game, and it has also assisted your comfort levels to that point as well. So what I would like to see is if a pre-merge tribe wants to barter with Jeff for more rice, he says no worries, but the other tribe wins immunity by default, and we are going to vote someone off right now. Make them lose a member rather than rewards. It seems like a fair price to pay for being heavily advantaged for the majority of the game. This would obviously be much harder to implement post-merge, but even so, I think one person sitting out of a challenge is far too cheap to be gifted rice. With the current rules, eating all the rice can actually become a legitimate strategy to enhance your game, and if that is the case, the rules need to be adjusted accordingly. So up next, we're going to be discussing the amount of idols and or advantages there are in the game and how they are obtained. Over time, there has been a dramatic increase in how many idols and advantages are in play at any given moment. So much so, we witnessed a devastating event of Sari being the first player to go home by default. We don't want to get to a stage where this becomes a common occurrence, where the social interactions are put aside and the show is retitled to survive a scavenger hunt of who can get there the quickest wins the game. One obvious way to reduce this is to limit the amount of idols there are in the game. I see a lot of viewers that would like to go back to one idol per tribe, one merge idol, and when they are played, that is it. They do not come back into the game at all. I've also seen suggestions that when an idol is played successfully, it doesn't come back in the game, but when it is played incorrectly or if someone is voted out with an idol, it does come back, and that could potentially be a happy medium. Idols are obviously extremely exciting and have changed the game dramatically, so if it did remain the same, where once it is played or removed from the game it does come back, I think they should at least be much harder to find, or at least have some variance in how they are found, such as not in the exact same spot on multiple beaches. So if there is a tribe swap, the player who found it on the first beach finds it on the second by default. Or don't have the same theme for every single idol, such as having them hidden in a painted coconut every single time. So that means the first person who finds it and plays it knows exactly what to look for when it is replanted in the game. If you know it's in a coconut, you don't have to worry about climbing trees or digging anywhere. You just have to look for the coconut with the mark on it, and that gives you a massive time advantage on the others in the game. And this is a big part of the reason we see the same people find them over and over again. Idols and advantages are really exciting and are now a staple of Survivor, but I do think either the quantity of them could be reduced or at least the way they are hidden can be altered, especially if the show is being filmed in the same location every year. So finally, we're going to be discussing how Tribal Council has evolved from a place where you go to vote someone out, to a new place to get out of your seat and strategize with one another. In Survivor Marquesas, in the Final Four, Jeff exclaimed when Kathy asked to speak with Vecepia in private that Tribal Council is a public forum, and it needs to be discussed in the open. So what makes the whispering and leaving your seat really difficult from a viewer's perspective is it can completely change the narrative of the story the episode is building up to. Being able to say, hey Alliance, let's go over here for a second and change our vote after we find out more information, it makes it very difficult to follow what exactly is going on, especially without a cameraman getting in the middle of that conversation to show what is occurring. But also at times it can make the rest of the episode redundant from what was actually occurring from a strategic perspective. Now I'm not sure it should be completely removed from the game, as there are circumstances like the Tribal in Survivor Game Changers where contestants literally didn't have the ability to talk amongst each other due to the twist of the two tribes attending the one Tribal Council. But I do think Jeff needs to step in more than he does. I would like it more if the viewers were more engaged in these discussions and they added to the narrative of the episode. The first few times it happened, it was incredibly exciting as a viewer, I must admit. But then again, it is not something we want to see every single tribal. For me personally, some of the most exciting tribals are when people try to flip the game but in an open forum. Like Hayden changing Sierra's opinion in Blood vs. Water, Caleb bringing up Brad as a vote and getting the girls on his side in the same season, or trying to figure out which way Cass would go in Survivor Cagayan, and Spencer's side of the numbers openly stating to go with their plan B. But overall, if whispering and leaving your seat at Tribal is to stay, get a cameraman involved if there are groups that go off and talk. Crank up the contestants' microphones if they are having a significant enough conversation. Really let the viewers in on what is exactly occurring in the game. After all, the show wouldn't be possible without its audience engagement. So these are just 5 things production could consider changing up in the game of Survivor. Is there anything that you wish to be changed? Please let me know down in the comments. As always, thank you guys so much for watching. Remember to hit that subscribe button if you haven't already or you are new to the channel, as there are new videos coming every single week. This is Analytical Strategy and we are signing out once again. I'll see you on the next one. Bye for now.